Still undefeated Cougar Nation, how's it going? I'm Noah Schmick.
And I'm Brady Frederick. Welcome to Cougar Sports Desk. An Ohio State University was denied by the United States Patent Office after attempting to trademark the word "the." The precedent set by this worries other universities, such as USC, who was considering trademarking the word "choke."
After earning NFL Rookie of the Week in his debut, Gardner Minshew was set to notch his first career win this weekend. Minshew worked his magic for a first down on 4th and 10 that led to a throwing touchdown in the final seconds. But Jags head coach Doug Marrone made a terrible decision to take the ball out of the most electric player in the NFL and give it to Leonard Fournette for the 2-point try. You can argue whether or not Fournette scored, but the one thing you can't argue is that even with the greatest underdog success story, nobody can escape the Jacksonville Jaguars coaching staff.
And you see, here at Washington State, we've known how dominant Minshew is, and even all the other schools in the West still have nightmares of his mustache smothering their records. But for East Coast fans that refuse to stay up past 10:30 on a Saturday night, this is their first exposure to the man who chucks bombs and bangs moms.
Jaguars cornerback Jalen Ramsey requested a trade shortly after it became publicly known that Gardner Minshew does armband stretches in the locker room before games while wearing only a jockstrap and aviators. Now, I will say it is unclear if those two things are related, but my trusted source John Bledsoe did say that he has video evidence of the Magic Mike Minshew, and Leonard Fournette even confirmed the story, saying he's used to seeing him doing his pregame ritual. Coug fans will supposedly get to see Minshew in Pullman this weekend since the Jags will be playing on Thursday. Whether or not we see him in a jockstrap, I'm sure we'll see him at the Pullman bars after the game.
And another WSU quarterback saw minutes in the NFL on Monday night. After Jets quarterback Sam Darnold went down with mono after spending too much time partying in the Jersey Shore, Tremor Simeon shattered his ankle, and it was time to bring out the third best quarterback on the team, Cougar legend Luke Falk. He threw 20 for 25 for 198 yards as the Browns absolutely blew them out. Great to see Luke Falk get his well-deserved time, but don't expect to see him on the Hulu Has Live sports commercial anytime soon.
Now for our weekly roast of Larry Scott. The Cougs will be kicking off back-to-back games for the next 2 weekends past the 10 o'clock East Coast fans' bedtimes. The Sons of Westwood are definitely not going to appreciate watching their beloved Bruins lose from their multi-million-dollar California homes this Saturday, so Larry Scott went ahead and punished the Cougs for their game next week. The top 20 matchup between the Cougs and the Utes will start at 7 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, and once again, the Pac-12 Conference, who has the same number of ranked teams as the SEC, will showcase a super huge, important matchup of two unranked Pac-12 teams on ESPN's primetime. There are all kinds of great chips: Lay's, Doritos, Tim's, and then there's Chip Kelly, a chip that no one wants. The UCLA head coach is winless so far this season, and in all 3 games has scored no more than 14 points in any matchup. Good thing the Bruins play in Pasadena, because there's no way that the Bruins will be going to the Rose Bowl anytime soon. Jalen Hurts and the Choklahoma Sooners blew out the Pretty Boys of LA by a score of 48-14 last weekend.
And now big news that may change the NCAA forever. California lawmakers signed a bill allowing college athletes to sign endorsement deals and make money off their likeness while still keeping amateur status. This would allow fans to buy college player jerseys and maybe someday play a new NCAA football video game. Big names in the NCAA are concerned that this will ruin college football because it will allow powerhouse schools to outbid others to pay for players. You know, exactly how it is right now, except legal. NFL bust legend Tim Tebow criticized the ruling, saying that players should play for the love of their school and not worry about money until they go pro. Because why not generalize every single NCAA player's economic situation based on the fact that you wanted to go to Florida? He's probably just upset that the University of Arizona basketball players are going to make more money than he does playing minor league baseball. But until all of the other states follow suit, this will only affect California schools, which really shouldn't change much. Think about it. Can you name a single player on the UCLA football team? Not a single one? See, who's going to give them an endorsement deal?
Now, Brady, we should probably figure out who plays for UCLA.
You know, I have no idea personally, but somehow they got people worse than Rosen.
That's all the headlines we have from this week. Now let's get into some recaps.
I'm Caitlin Rappel.
And I'm Damien Alvarado.
And welcome to the replay booth. WSU women's volleyball swept Idaho State in the Cougs' first home game of the season in the Cougar Challenge Tournament. They continued this winning streak against UT Arlington and Liberty University. Freshman Pia Timmer stood out in the Idaho State game with 12 kills, and redshirt sophomore Charity Bradley had a huge weekend and broke her season high with 15 kills against Idaho State. The Cougs did not see any losses this weekend and will get ready to play in the UT RGV tournament this weekend in Texas.
Moving on to cross country, it's a sport filled with many individuals, but this year both the men's and women's team made it noted that having a bond is a must, and Coach Phipps has both of his teams heading in the right direction. The women's program captured its first title of the season, while the men's team finished second overall in the Cougar Classic held last Friday in Colfax. Zorana Grujic and Josie Brown finished first for the women's team, both at 21 minutes and 30 seconds, while the men's team had Matthew Watkins and Colton Johnson finish top 14 at 24 minutes and 42 seconds. Both teams will head out to Oregon to face off in the Bill Dillinger Invitational on September 28th.
The women's soccer team hosted this weekend's Cougar Classic. They got off to a rocky start, losing to Michigan 2-1. The Cougs made too many mistakes in the first couple minutes, which allowed Michigan to be up 2-0 in just 3 minutes and 13 seconds. This was the Cougs' first time losing to a non-Pac-12 opponent at home since 2016. They did come back with a dub against Loyola Marymount, 2-1. Morgan Weaver's third-minute goal in the LMU game was the second fastest goal of the 2019 season. Elise Bennett made the second goal, a header from Hannah Goff, putting the Cougs on top. The women will travel to Hawaii for the Rainbow Wahine Shootout and will play Hawaii on Thursday.
Last but not least, let's move on to some WSU football, where the Cougs were feeling them 3-0 vibes as they battled it out in the statement game versus Houston. After a scoreless first quarter, Houston struck first when De'Ara King found Mark Stevenson in the end zone, capping off a 7-minute and 15-play drive. Shortly after, the Cougs matched the score on their next drive when Eastside Witten Jr. caught a 39-yard touchdown pass from Anthony Gordon. King put Houston back on top 14-17 going into halftime on a goal line sneak.
Moving into the second half, Houston struggled to move the ball, and WSU's Gordon converted on a third down play where he dumped it off to Max Borghi, who rushed into the Cougar 20. Shortly after, Tay Martin took an inside screen down to the 1-yard line, which allowed Borghi to punch it in for the tying touchdown. In the fourth, WSU took a commanding 28-17 lead after Gordon stepped up in the pocket and connected with Travell Harris in the back of the end zone.
WSU went on to win 31-24, and Anthony Gordon passed for his third straight 400-yard game, totaling 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Brandon Arconato caught 9 passes for 115 yards. That's it from the replay booth. I'm Damon Alvarado.
And I'm Caitlin Rappel.
Sending it back to the Cougar Sports Desk.
Thanks, guys. Well, our matchup this week, UCLA. Not only a prestigious academic institution, but also a school that has won many national titles and pumped out tons of Hall of Fame athletes. In basketball, you see, their football program is what most sports journalists would refer to as a dumpster fire, and Washington State is about to pour a couple gallons of gasoline into it this weekend.
Brady, as long as there's a couch in that UCLA dumpster, I'm sure Coug fans would love to start the fire. I mean, hey, speaking of fires though, Anthony Gordon, that man is on fire. His second Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week award after the win against Houston. If Gordon can keep this up, he'll be on track for almost 5,500 yards in a season, which would be 700 yards more than the record set by Minshew last year.
Well, Gordon should definitely be able to get a lot closer to that record because UCLA's defense is weaker than Malibu's alcohol percentage.
Hey, if their defense is Malibu, then their offense is water, because they've been drowning in massive score differentials in the last 3 games. They're averaging 263 yards of offense per game, and that's a Chip Kelly-ran offense.
Honestly, though, Noah, it's hard to tell which side of the ball plays worse. The defense is giving up 467 yards per game, and that's actually pretty on par with a Chip Kelly-ran defense.
That makes sense. But their UCLA soccer team, they're 5th in the nation. I mean, good for them, but their football team, they're hoping that they finish 5th in the Pac-12 South Division.
Honestly, I don't think they're going to do it. I think it's going to be a lot worse. But it's not entirely fair to criticize UCLA. They have a lot of things working against them. For example, every UCLA football game is an away game because not a single student at UCLA wants to drive an hour out of campus, or 6 hours in LA traffic, to go to the Rose Bowl and attend a game.
Well, I mean, despite Hollywood, the beautiful weather, one of the most famous stadiums in the NCAA, in recent years, UCLA, they've only been relevant because of LeVar Ball, or even R.L. Grimes' Sorority Girl anthem.
Yeah, and honestly, it looks like no more big ballers go to UCLA anymore, and that's pretty surprising to me. Looks like a pretty fun school to go to, but it really blows me away. Just like the Cougs are going to blow away the Bruins this weekend. Noah, what's your score prediction for the week?
Just like Jack Thompson, he says Cougs by 50. I'm taking it too. Papa throws picks. I'm going with you. Cougs by 50.
Honestly, this weekend, I'd be a little more worried if we were playing Eastern Washington. 50 would be great, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. I'm calling it 73-6. UCLA gets a single garbage time touchdown, but misses the extra point.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's all the time we have left. Just remember, if you go too hard this weekend and don't remember the games, don't worry, because we'll be back next Wednesday to give you all the headlines, recaps, and previews.
For Noah Schmick and everybody else here in Studio A, I'm Brady Frederick saying so long and go Cougs.